Why is Alton Towers completely rebuilding Nemesis? I mean, at first glance, this seems like a bit of a silly move. They're simply rebuilding the ride and not changing anything about it. But why on earth is Alton Towers doing this? And is this really the right move? Well, Alton Towers has a very specific reason why they are completely rebuilding this coaster. And that reason is... Okay, so what Alton Towers is doing to Nemesis is actually what Universal did to the Incredible Hulk. Alton Towers will be keeping the layout entirely the same, just replacing the aging track and supports, and giving it a little bit of a refresh with some new paint and a little bit of a new theme overall. Okay, sounds great, but why are they replacing it with a brand new coaster, instead of just replacing the track and supports? Well, let's dive in. Nemesis opened to the public in 1994. And was recently closed in 2022 to undergo a major refurbishment, as I mentioned earlier. At the time of the refurbishment, the coaster had been operating for 28 years, which is definitely a little bit up there in age for a roller coaster. And the track and supports were starting to wear down and needed to be replaced. Now, Alton Towers is in a bit of a situation. Nemesis is a super iconic coaster that is instantly recognized by many people across the world. And Nemesis happens to be the very reason why a lot of people choose to visit Alton Towers. So Alton Towers has run into their first problem. This coaster is so iconic that it would be kind of hard to remove it. But it gets worse from here. Alton Towers has an imposed height restriction, meaning they can't build above the tree line, so all their coasters have to stay relatively low to the ground. And it would be very difficult for Alton Towers to replace Nemesis with a coaster that's below the tree line and would fit on the plot of land. And I would imagine that would be incredibly costly to do so. And Alton Towers has a very limited amount of land, which means they can't just not use the space. They really need to fill this up with a coaster. But as you see the POV on your screen, take a look at the terrain. Alton Towers literally dug trenches so that this coaster could fit in this plot of land. So they literally modified the terrain for this very attraction. And it would be incredibly difficult to tailor an entirely new coaster to fit in this specific terrain. And honestly, this terrain appears to be what makes this coaster so special, because it offers incredible foot choppers, and it really gives you the sensation of speed. So all of this kind of helped contribute to Alton Towers' decision to just rebuild Nemesis. It allows them to save time and money because they don't have to redesign a whole coaster to fit in this very specific plot of land, which would have been an incredibly difficult task. And then you couple that with how iconic Nemesis is to the entire world, and honestly, it really does help make sense. But we still have some other reasons why Alton Towers chose to rebuild Nemesis the way it was. First of all, I think they're kind of applying the if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality to this project. As I said before, people love Nemesis. So why replace it and take the risk of it not being nearly as popular as Nemesis was? Another reason is that they get to save a little bit of money but not have to paying a manufacturer to completely design a brand new coaster to fit in such a tight plot of land. They instead get to reuse the blueprints from the original Nemesis and just replace it with brand new track. And just paying for brand new track and supports and trains and all of that stuff is a whole lot cheaper than designing and building a completely new coaster. But we are not done yet, because Alton Towers has another big reason why they wanted to rebuild Nemesis the way it was. And that's because they saw the opportunity to do a complete retheme of the coaster, and they thought they could really make it work. And honestly, by the looks of the new theming they'll be adding to this new coaster, I think it's going to be pretty awesome. So it appears Alton Towers is kind of going on the basis that Nemesis is kind of getting reborn. Actually, the coaster is literally going to be named Nemesis Reborn, but anyway, it appears that an unknown, life form is escaping from a lab, and it's this, octopus-type creature that I assume is Nemesis being reborn. And in their promotion video, they're, doing tests on it, and all this other stuff, and it randomly kind of goes rogue. And I think that's what they're theming this coaster off of. It's you either escaping from the Nemesis Reborn type creature, or you're weaving in and around and trying to escape. And given how they painted the track, I would assume that you are on the monster, if you get what I mean. And Alton Towers always goes super above and beyond with their marketing and their theming, and they literally made like a full-on movie trailer for a roller coaster. That is something you don't get pretty much anywhere else. And honestly, I love where they are taking this theming. And I honestly feel like that this whole process will be a huge W for Alton Towers. Wait a minute, back with a vengeance? Hey, they could have renamed it Steel Vengeance. It's made out of steel and it's coming back with a vengeance. I'm just kidding, keep the theme Alton Towers, that thing is awesome. But I feel like Alton Towers felt like they could create a super awesome storyline around Nemesis Reborn. And with the lower costs and the terrain and all that stuff, it really just all culminated and made a ton of sense for Alton Towers to just rebuild the coaster and keep it around for another 30 plus years. But before we wrap this thing up, I have a bold prediction. Now keep in mind, this is a very what if, and it is not likely to happen at all. But when I kind of think about it, it really isn't super far-fetched. What if Alton Towers is looking to tie in all of the roller coaster's theming into one massive attraction? And what if they thought that Nemesis needed a little bit of a retheme to really fit better into this new potential coaster? Okay, before you say I'm crazy, let me explain. Alton Towers is known for tying in a lot of theming. And as I said before, they literally made basically an entire movie trailer for this new attraction. But what if there's a plan in the works, something like 3 to 7-ish years down the road, there's going to be the coaster to end all coasters. A final attraction to tie the entire storyline of Alton Towers into one final conclusion. And maybe Nemesis Reborn was the final piece to this puzzle. Just imagine a headlining attraction that ties together the themes of all the Alton Towers roller coasters perfectly into one final conclusion. That would be epic. Now, is this probably going to happen? No. There's a very slim chance. But knowing Alton Towers, I wouldn't rule it out. Okay, that's a wrap on today's video. If you enjoyed the video, then drop a like and hit that subscribe button. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And if you want to know why this exists, then check out the video on your screen right now. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.